अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Salutations to that holy Guru who lifts the darkness of ignorance from the blindfolded by applying the ointment of spiritual wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mitra Bandhu Paudel. Welcome to the fourth episode, special episode of the Essence of the Bhagavad Gita in Management. In this episode, I try to explore emotional self awareness in our great scripture, Bhagavad Gita. My message is know your emotions. I try to link Goldman and Boyati's model with a few verses of Gita related to emotional self awareness. Today, uh, let's try to find the answers of four questions. Number one, what is emotion? Number two, what is emotional self awareness? Number three is where do we find emotional self awareness in Bhagavad Gita? And the last question is what are the management lessons from it? Now let's discuss about emotion. What is emotion? Emotion is the feeling that manifests as surprise, contempt, fear, happiness, and sadness. Our environment makes an effort to convey these emotions. The Latin word, which spells EMOVERE, emove, which means to move, stir up, agitate, or excite, is the source of the English term emotion. Charles Darwin was an early experimental psychologist, it seems out. According to the new archival research by Peter Snyder, a neuroscientist at Brown University, Darwin carried out one of the first experiments on how individuals identify emotion in faces. For the last 40 years, Lazarus has been a leader in this subject. He contends that emotions have intentionally intentionality and that our intellect determines their importance and force. This leads to judgment about our ability to handle the occurrence or circumstance outside of ourselves, which causes an emotional response. For instance, like when someone hears excellent news, you know, they are happy. When someone is in danger, they become afraid. Now, let's try to find the answer of the second important question, what is emotional self awareness? Understanding your own emotions and how they affect your performance is known as emotional self awareness, according to Daniel Goleman. According to a book entitled Emotional Intelligence in Action, written by Hughes, Peterson, and Terrell, 2011, an essential component of emotional intelligence is emotional self awareness. It is the capacity to comprehend what we are feeling, why we are feeling it, and what brought on those sentiments. It enables us to understand what motivates us and to connect with our core assumptions, values, and beliefs. Being emotionally self aware is essential for being able to express our emotions to others. It aids in keeping us focused, and in line with our true motivations. That is exactly written in page number 45, uh, of the book written by these three authors. Now, let's find the emotional self-awareness in Gita. Where do we find emotional self-awareness in Bhagavad Gita? This is the third question that we are discussing now. Now let's find Arjuna's capacity to comprehend what he was feeling in the battlefield of Kurukshetra after seeing all the relatives. Arjuna was in the deepest sadness. He was saying to Sri Krishna that his limbs grew weak and his mouth was dry, his body trembled, and hair stood on end. In addition to this, his Gandiva dropped from his hand and his mind was whirling, and he was not able uh, even to stand. So he was mentally in a very terrible stage. Arjuna tells Sri Krishna that he considers that the omens are unlucky and he does not believe that killing his family in battle is a good thing. It's written in chapter 1, verse 31. Further, he says, I don't desire success, a throne, or pleasures. What use can a kingdom, luxury, or even life be to us? Govinda, chapter 1, verse 32 is in Sanskrit. Nakangche Vijayam Krishna Nacha Rajyam Sukhani cha Kimno Rajyena Govinda Kim Bhogar Jivitenava. When Arjuna expresses his displeasures and frustrations, Sri Krishna listens all with attention, and eventually in chapter 2, verse 2, Sri Krishna raises the question to Arjuna. How does this misconception sneak up on you at such a bad time? Because it neither fits the behavior of honorable men nor leads to renown or heaven. At last, Arjuna realizes his weaknesses. Weaknesses include expressing things inappropriately by a warrior in the middle of the battlefield, not being focused on the battle, not being able to make rational decisions, being confused no matter how excellent archer he is. In chapter 2, verse 7, he surrenders unto Sri Krishna, saying, I am now unsure of my obligations and have lost all composure due to weakness. I'm pleading with you to make it apparent what would be best for me in this circumstance. I have now become your disciple and given you my soul. Let me know what to do. So this is the expression, this is the expression of Arjuna to surrender his soul to Sri Krishna. At this point, Arjuna got emotional self-awareness. Sometimes we are in such a situation that we cannot identify whether we are self-aware or not. Some sort of coaches or mentorship may require. Arjuna receives Krishna's mentorship throughout his life and beyond. Euphoria should not dictate us. Swami Mukundananda beautifully comments like this: through transcendental knowledge, enlightened individuals are able to regulate the intellect. The mind is then under their control, using the cleansed intellect, and the senses are restrained by the mind. The situation is reversed in the state of material conditioning. The senses influences the mind, which dominates the intellect and causes it to veer away from the path of true welfare. Therefore, according to Sri Krishna, the senses will be restricted if the intellect is purified by spiritual understanding. And when the senses are kept in check, the intellect won't be deviated from the path of divine wisdom. So it's written in chapter 2, verse 68. Therefore, O powerful armed Arjuna, one who has restrained the senses from their object is firmly grounded in transcendental knowledge. So, emotional self awareness brings real peace. For this, one should get rid of ego and desire of self gratification. Material desire, greed, ego, and proprietorship are the things listed by Sri Krishna that disturb one's peace. He suggests Arjuna in chapter 2, verse 71. A person achieves perfect tranquility when they give up all material aspirations and live without any sense of greed, propriety, or ego. Now, what are the management lessons for us? In a piece for Forbes, Aru the 2023 discuss how emotional self-awareness is essential for a hybrid leadership. He lists 8 factors that make self-awareness essential for today's leaders. Number one, it makes it possible to foster an atmosphere of inclusion and acceptance. Number two, it aids in the understanding and utilization of superpowers by leaders. Number three, it aids in leaders' awareness of their prejudices. Number four, it promotes greater understanding among leaders. Number five, it makes decision making better. Number six, it helps leaders develop. Number seven, it enables leaders to control their emotions. And number eight, it enables leaders to establish credibility and trust. When confusion arises like Arjuna, it always wise thing to get help from the expert or inspiring leadership who gives a proper guidance to examine emotional self-awareness and suggest the colleagues for self-reflection or introspection. Spiritual understanding helps leaders to foster an environment of credibility, trust, and greater understanding in the workplace. Experts believe that self aware leaders are better able to identify and control their own emotions, which can help them react to challenging circumstances and conflicts more skillfully because they are better equipped to respond to obstacles or change it constructive, less destructive ways. This can enhance their capacity to lead and manage others. Bhagavad Gita emphasizes the importance of self awareness as a prerequisite for reaching spiritual enlightenment and progressing as a person. It teaches that in order to improve oneself, one must be aware of their genuine selves, their strengths, and their weaknesses. By increasing their self awareness, people can become aware of their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, as well as how these impacts their lives. This can help people take responsibility for their actions and make decisions that are consistent with their goals and core values. Another advantage of self awareness is the capacity to recognize one's own negative inclinations and behaviors that obstruct personal progress. By being aware of these tendencies, people can take steps to alter them and develop better habits. According to Bhagavad Gita, self awareness can aid people in developing a stronger bond with their inner selves and a feeling of purpose. This may result in a clearer perceptions of one's role in the world as well as a sense of the purpose and contentment. Thus, the Bhagavad Gita's teaching on self awareness places a strong emphasis on the necessity of knowing oneself in order to advance personality and spirituality. People who are self-aware can recognize their uh, assets and limitations, accept accountability for their actions, and connect more deeply to their inner selves and sense of purpose. This true essence of emotional intelligence is found in Bhagavad Gita. With this, let me conclude episode 4. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mriturma Amritam Gamaya. Om Santi Santi Santi.